Welcome to the Ambitious Sloth podcast. I'm Julian, and I interview people from all around the world about their mindsets, ambitions, and meaning in life for you so you can learn from them or just get a different perspective on things you haven't thought of before. Today's guest is Bello, and we talked a lot about goal setting, persistency, meaning in life, and Vipassana again. And you'll surely also recognize his kindness and positivity he has throughout the whole interview, which made it just amazing to talk to him and to get deeper into that just by listening to him. So let's get right into it.
For those who recognize my voice and who have listened to my podcast before, Julian or Julian, Julian Merton or Julian Merton, that's kind of confusing. So Julian Merton, if you're pronouncing it, I guess, in 100% English. We've been connected recently here. I've seen you've posted a lot of really good podcasts lately. You've interviewed some of the people that it looks like I've interviewed as well, like Skylar. You just posted an episode on that recently, and I know that you've been putting content out for a good amount of time. I can't remember, we talked last time about how big the audience is now that you're speaking to through your podcast, but I guess I know you as the podcaster, content producer right now, and I'm sure you know me as that as well. But yeah, feel free to fill in the gaps. Like what else is it that you're working on, like offering towards your clients, or what are you building towards? Do you have a Facebook group?
Yeah, so right now, actually, also I'm full-time studying still. So doing my master's in the subject is talent development and creativity. So it's a psychology master's, and
Yeah.
for that I'm now super involved in the growth mindset, and I'm also working on then like a solo series on the growth mindset. And like putting this out, how to get that, what is the growth mindset about, why is that important, and then also through a workshop how can you learn it. That's what I'm working on right now, as well, mostly. And to be honest, most of the what I do with the podcast is really just doing a hobby, enjoying to talk to people, connect to them, learn from them. That's like, I guess I would say, one of the biggest hobbies I really have, like seeing other people performing or being super good at something, and then like, how do you do that? I want to learn did you get mastered in this or that. This is something I super get fired up when I see something like that.
Yeah, that's kind of why I make the podcast as well, because I learn, and then we get to connect with people across the world. Like, other than getting on a plane and flying there and talking to someone, even if you did that, usually you don't get to meet someone and talk to them for a full hour and get to know them on this kind of level. At least that's, you're on vacation. You're not going to just sit down and talk to a park bench stranger for this long, right? So lots of really cool value that we were able to provide to each other. I
Uh,
totally forgot how busy you were with your studies and stuff
yeah.
too. I remember you talked about that recently when we got on the call to just meet each other.
Yeah, so like next week I have again like a couple of exams, and so that is like on the side. To be
Yeah, you
honest,
better be
it's
studying after this.
fortunately you're right.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah.
so what do you think about, like, who am I that you've seen so far? I know we followed each other for a few weeks here now. You can obviously tell that I have a podcast too, but yeah,
Yeah.
feel free to introduce me however you see fit.
Yeah, so I've like obviously got the first thing I got to know about you was the Entrepreneur Motivation podcast, and that you grew that to an insane number of, like, was it in July, a number of 25,000 downloads a month? Insane,
Yeah,
man! In two
thank
years.
you. I don't know
Uh,
how it happened. I really don't. It's awesome though. I'll take
Damn it! I wanted to ask you about it.
it.
Yeah, and despite of that, you also like managed to build up your uh, real estate, like investing and agent business, and like still have huge plans on in the future. So like how you can make that bigger, and yeah, basically build a sustaining income through that. But a question was then somewhere it was written a realtor. What is a realtor?
Yeah, so I guess here they call real estate agent. There's a certain designation of realtor or realtor. I don't know how I hear people pronounce it a couple different ways, but it's basically another word for real estate agent, except it's more of like a code of conduct, ethics based thing where there's a code of ethics that we have to read through and sign, and basically says that when we get a client, either a seller or a buyer, we have fiduciary duty. We're supposed to act in their best interest. So we need to be the utmost professionals. We can't just be like, okay, I just want to get a commission. Let me just take the first offer, because that's not necessarily what's best for the client if the client's looking to get the highest dollar amount for their house, for example. And we also have to present every single offer that we get. So even if I get a really low offer, I still have to present to my client if they're selling their house, for example. So realtor is basically real estate agent.
Oh, okay. Good to
Yeah.
know. Oh, yeah, and obviously you were from Houston, Texas, and working there now.
I am in Houston, Texas now. And where you said you were in
Now I'm in the Netherlands right now,
the
studying
Netherlands,
there.
right?
Yeah, in
Okay.
Groningen, in the north of the Netherlands.
In where?
Groningen, it's called in
Groningen.
Dutch. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. That's a cool word. I don't even know how you would spell that, but
And
I'll
so
I'll
the
believe
the
you.
the the hard sound, it's from the G. Like the G is called.
Okay.
Like it's pretty weird. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool because even in I know a little bit of not I don't know really Arabic really, but I worked in Dubai for a little bit, and I'm pretty sure they have the same or similar sound for like KH, like they say like khalas, like means like
Okay.
enough. So it's interesting because it's KH, so it would be like kalas, but it's really khalas. It's got that like yeah. I have a
Interesting.
lot to learn about languages. I only know
Yeah.
English and some Spanish, but how about you? You speak other languages as well?
Well, German, Dutch, and English. Yeah.
German, Dutch, and English. I find so many people in other countries speak like three languages, usually three or
Yeah.
four. I've met people that even speak five, and I'm like, what? I my mom's from Mexico, and I took like 10 years of Spanish in school, and I still don't consider myself fluent. But yeah, I mean, I think immersion helps a lot too. I hear people say all the time, if you go to a country where they only
Yeah.
speak that language,
That's the
you're
only
going
way I
to learn
learned
it.
it. Yeah. Now I'm
Yeah,
living since like 4 years in the Netherlands, and I've been to Australia for like more than half a year and
yeah,
studied now all the time in English. So that's where I got this from.
that's
Otherwise, I
so
wouldn't be
cool.
doing that. No.
Yeah,
I
so I mean, there's
hated
just
English in
a
school.
yeah. I even sometimes I mess up words, and I'm like a grammar Nazi, self-proclaimed. I'm always like, you spelled that wrong. Your yo apostrophe re versus your your. People always mess that up, and I'm always like,
Really?
ah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's so many people. Or there, like, hey, over there, THERE versus there as in possession, like THEIR. People always mess it up, and I just cringe, and I want to correct it, but I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to ruin their post by correcting the grammar, because I get what they're trying to say.
Yeah, and you have been like super busy also in the past weeks. I saw with like making
Yeah.
your plans like 2020, stepping up the podcasting game. Like how does that look like for you? What was there a change for you that you stepped this up so intensely suddenly? Or
Yeah.
what's
Thanks for asking. So I I guess when in doubt, take action. I talked about that on my Instagram story recently where I was like,
yeah.
sometimes I don't know what the next step is. And I'm like, am I doing enough? We all get to that point sometimes where we think we're doing everything we can, but a lot of motivational videos I listen to and watch, they're like, an example was think about the ocean. How many buckets of water does it take to fill the ocean up? No one knows. And even if you got to there, the question would remain, could you have poured another bucket into the ocean? And so that's kind of like with effort, right? Are we really giving it all? David Goggins also has me asking this too, because we could push ourselves in our minds
Yeah.
so much further than we probably think. Usually we want to be comfortable and say, oh, I think I did enough today. And so stepping it up from one podcast a week to two podcasts a week, just doing more and more and more to generate massive results. That's kind of my thought process behind just improving or increasing what it is that I'm doing already.
That's at least for me, since I can also see like one episode a week is already quite some effort, and then putting in
Yeah.
two, it's like, damn, impressive. But
Yeah. And how
then
many episodes have you created now?
in total, it must be now more than 40 also. So I've been
Okay. Okay.
not that consistent, but usually every like 3 weeks, and on average, I would say there's an episode. Yeah,
Yeah. So for me, I think I'm on like episode 116 or something, and I've done one every single week since I started in 2017. And I've gotten faster at it. The first few episodes, oh, it was so painful. I would record, it was loud in my house sometimes. So I'd like sit in my car and record it, and then I'd edit it. And for a 20-minute episode, it would take like an hour and a half sometimes just to
I
record
feel
it,
you.
edit it, upload it. So you get faster with time though, because Gary Vaynerchuk talks about document, don't create. So that's my workflow has improved. And as I've gotten better at speaking, I don't need notes anymore. I just need a couple bullet points to remind me of what I want to cover. And I usually do it in one take. So I just record like a 10 or 20-minute video. The video goes to YouTube, the audio goes to my podcast. And I even recently stopped even typing a blog post because it's just like too much time. Um, so I've gotten a little bit lazier, but more strategic, right? So I'm doing
Yeah,
more work, but I'm kind of doing less work as well in other
you're
areas.
putting
Does that
more
make sense?
out, but less work.
Yes, I'm
Yeah,
streamlining things, and maybe I can hire a team one day to like go and fill in some blog, written word. But the way everything's trending now, more and more people are watching videos on YouTube or listening to podcasts. People don't even want to spend 5 minutes reading a blog, right? Like I just look on YouTube if I have a question.
me too. Yeah.
And there's a lot of there's like 10 pages of good stuff, so you have infinite content to answer your questions.
Yeah. But you also like what I saw quite impressive. Like you started from the beginning on super persistent, consistent. Every single week you put out an episode. That is
Yeah, thank you.
admirable, man. Yeah.
I appreciate that. One friend that I have, he told me a compliment that I really took to heart, because we were hanging out and it had been a while, and he told me that he said, "Hey Chris, I got to give you that. You're one of the most determined, consistent people that I know in terms of even exercising." When we all started working out when we were like 13 together, and so many friends started with me and then stopped, and I've been consistent working out every single week. Same thing with like playing the drums. I played all the way through since I was in the 5th grade. Now I don't play as much, but I always kept up with whenever I took something and I committed, I made it a point to see it through, because persistence, all the videos you watch on YouTube about starting a YouTube channel or a podcast, I say that most of them talk about how it's so important to be persistent and consistent, because if your audience doesn't know how often you're going to release data or release a new episode, they don't know when to expect you. Versus if they know, like, okay, it's Monday, I can't wait, I'm going to work, I'm going to turn the podcast on, I know Chris is going to have a new episode, right? They're
Yeah.
kind of waiting to see your new podcast out. So that it really helps. But yeah, thank you for that tip. And that would be one suggestion. I mean, if I could give you some good positive feedback for 2020, is just to come up with a schedule. If it's every 3 weeks, just say new episode every 3 weeks and stick to it, and your audience will appreciate it for sure.
As like actually today I posted this story about, yeah, I'm gonna upload now every 2 weeks an episode
Perfect.
consistently.
And when
Um,
you post it too, now people are going to hold you accountable. You're going to be like, man, I already
mhm.
told everyone I was going to do it. Now I can't not do it.
Yeah, yeah. Because that I think has most of the time actually been something I was struggling with. Also, like with what you just said with exercising, I went for quite a while for like going for runs, and then at some point I just didn't, and it stopped,
Yeah.
and then at some point it started again, and then I run like 10K or 20K or something like that, just out of nowhere, and then again stopped. Like this is
Yeah.
some ridiculous pattern that followed me since years now.
Yeah, so the
Um,
consistency really helps. I mean, I've my cousin just asked me, he texted me like, "Hey, what are your goals this year?" And the fact that I had somewhere where I actually saved them and I could send him the screenshot, I never used to have that before a few years ago. I'd be like, "Oh, I want to get some muscle and like go to visit, Cancun, Mexico or something." Like that would be my goals. And now I sent him very specific goals. Like I want to do 35 real estate deals this year. I want to work out 4 times a week minimum. I want to be on 50 podcast episodes. So very specific goals just like that where I can keep looking at them. And anytime that I don't want to go to the gym or something, I'm like, oh man, I've only gone 3 times this week. Tomorrow's the last day that I have, or today's the last day of the week to make that goal happen. So I have to go. So now I feel like I have to, right? It's
Hmm.
keeping yourself accountable.
And that worked for you so far very well, I presume.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's
Hmm.
those little details. I actually, the book's behind me on my little bookshelf thing. I let somebody borrow a book called The Slight Edge, so I don't have it here with me now. But she said it was the perfect book to start the new year off because it's my girlfriend and her friend both started to do accountability calls weekly now. And they set some goals together. They were in the living room, planning for the year. And then The Slight Edge talks about the importance of just showing up every single day and how over time those activities compound and you start to become more disciplined. You start to believe that when you make a goal, you're going to actually stick to it, right?
Yeah,
So many of us are like, oh, this is my goal. And you already know in the back of your head, it's probably not going to happen. But when you start to do things every day and you're like, I said I was going to do it and I did it, it makes it more believable because you're like, okay, why not make X amount of dollars this year or do so, Y amount of deals? It's possible.
I think there's something very important in what you just said, that you like build up this consistency to always reach the goals you set. And
Yeah,
I feel like there's the really important that you set for yourself such goals that you, maybe especially in the beginning, you're certain you will achieve them. You're
absolutely. And
100%
it comes
certain.
with time.
Yeah. But in the beginning, maybe like even a bit lower than you might think you can achieve in order to build that exact confidence and self-efficacy, maybe it's called, to get
Yeah.
there. And then you build this persistence and continuous base on like, okay, I can achieve that goal. Maybe next time you put a bit higher this goal. Next time a bit higher still.
And that's one thing I kind of struggle with too, even with my goals, because you hear the conflicting things like set big goals that are crazy and that scare you. But then you also kind of want to set realistic, reasonable goals. So I don't want to play small and make goals that are not big enough of a stretch goal, but then I also don't want to make goals that are so big that it just seemed, you already think in your mind that it's not going to happen, so then it won't, right? And you need some of
Exactly.
those little
Yeah.
wins. If you can set a goal that's like a little bit of a stretch goal, but it's within reach and you get it, then you can keep on building up. So I agree with what you said right there of not setting them so big that you just don't ever achieve your goals.
Yeah, I think that it really depends on like what kind of person you are, whether you are like that confident already and like I'm gonna crush this big goal, and even if I don't, I get 90% there. But some people
Yeah,
are just like, yeah, but this is like a super big goal, and if I don't hit it, like I fail and cannot do it, and then I feel miserable just because I didn't meet that goal. And so
yeah.
like there
So
really depends on like what kind of person you are and what you feel like is best for you.
definitely. I was curious to see, have you set some goals for 2020? I'm sure you already have, but like do you mind sharing with the audience, both yours and mine, what some of your goals are?
Yeah, so in this sense, I also took a bit like a different approach on goal setting, a bit more. I got this from transformational coaching, the approach of not setting the goals in the way of I want to have done so and so many episodes, but you want to feel a certain way at the end of the year. Or I set the most of my goals now for 6 months, so I want to feel and see like the impact I had with, for example, the podcast or the workshops I do for my master thesis.
Hmm.
And I picture then really clearly a situation in which I like I feel super proud on having those successes done by the means of uh yeah, just like putting out the content. But there I don't specify on I want to have those so many episodes, because it can also be just by putting out a different series or putting out another video or putting or getting to contact with being a guest on another episode, that this can also
Hmm.
be the major value giver to the audience rather than me just putting out 20 episodes. So there
Right,
i
right.
I had in my mind at least that I might be restricting myself based just when I make the goal too specific and just want to achieve those so many episodes, because that does not necessarily lead me to the goal of this final state I want to have.
Yeah, and
You get that?
that's kind of like the dilemma too, because if you're
Yeah.
just doing like a quantity goal, then how is the quality suffering because you're doing too many episodes and now you're not making as much of an impact? If you can balance the quality while putting out a lot of quantity, I think that helps too. So I get what you're saying in terms of getting the goal right, and I think it takes a little bit of tweaking because my goals this year are pretty different than they were last year. I had like 15 goals last year. It was just too many. I was tracking too much. And now it's very specific. It's like, okay, exercise goal, real estate goal, podcast goal. Those are my priorities. And then I I don't have family goals for like hang out with my family this many times a week or a month. And last year it was like go on a dinner date twice a month with my girlfriend. But we already do that, right? So I make it a point to spend time and be active and conscious about that. But I took it off of my goal tracker just because it became too much to manage, where I was not being as effective as I think I could be with less things to focus on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's I think a really huge part, that you don't like overflow yourself with all the goal setting parts, and then at some point
Yeah.
you forget the actual execution, or that they can't even execute on it because like, wait, I have 15 goals for like
Let me track
5 days,
them
and like
all.
how
Yeah.
do you, yeah, how do you
You spend
crumb all
like
of
30
this in
minutes a
there?
day just updating it versus doing the work.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I also saw your, what was it, Excel sheet, and like how you manage those goals, and based on like dates, the automatic new day and how much you achieved, and that was pretty
Yeah.
impressive. Yeah.
Thank you. It's funny because I just saw out of the corner of my eye, my girlfriend's friend who came here for the goal setting activities. I kind of wanted to show them my goal setting daily task tracker, but I didn't want to be the annoying guy who's like, "Hey, look what I have." So I let them come up with their own thing. But she just messaged me 5 minutes ago on Instagram and said, "Hey, Chris, I listened to your podcast and I heard you say you had a daily task tracker. Do you mind sending me that? I'm tracking my daily tasks in a book right now." So I also promised my audience that I would release the 2020 version. I had a 2019 version. So I now, because of popular demand, okay, after this, I will actually update it and I can send that link out to everybody for free to download because it is pretty helpful to be able to track and extrapolate if you're on track or not. Because so many people, and sorry to just kind of hog the mic here. I was just kind of excited about the task tracker. So many people, they get to the end of the year and then they look at their goals and sum it all up and they realize that they didn't make it. How cool is it if you can know at this rate that I'm going at, am I going to make it? And if not, you got to increase the actions that you're doing in order to make those dreams happen and make those goals happen.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
I'll send that to you too if you want.
what I took from your daily task tracker was really the picture, or the notion that from how many days left and how many you have done. Like
Yeah.
that was something super vivid for me, that like every single day when I wake up and see that, all right, 10 days done, now let's start the 11th day and crush it again. Like there you
Yeah.
have
It's start from
this
zero.
yeah, you have this additional motivation, and you see like the numbers slowly getting smaller from 365 to like 359, and then it's like somewhat a bit of urgency arises.
Absolutely.
And I like that one. Yeah, I use that one now.
That's really cool. I posted a picture on Instagram recently where it was like, what will the new year bring? And then it said 365 opportunities. Apparently it's leap year, so there's 366 opportunities this year. And somebody commented on that, so I didn't even realize that. But yeah, every day is a new opportunity. So like you said, when you visualize it and you realize that every single day it's a new day, it's a new opportunity, but you also are one day less of the year left. So you're kind of running out of time. So it gives you that
Mm.
sense of urgency that we kind of need sometimes.
But a question that, at least for me, arises all the time when I think about goal setting: what is this heading or leading me towards? Why do I want to make
Yes.
something bigger, greater, uh, even better than last year? What is this for? Not just
Like
for the sake
why?
of setting the goal, but what does it give to me when I set the goals of what do you said, like 35 transactions a year? Like,
Like
why?
why do I want that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another good question on my task tracker too. I have the first tab is my why or my purpose. And I can actually pull it up now just to tell you what it is now. I spent maybe 30 minutes trying to come up with something that I thought was pretty meaningful to me. So right now, my purpose and my why, it says, my purpose is to be all that I can be for those who care about me and more. I want to be a light for those in dark places, a leader for those who need someone worth following, and an inspiration for others to look up for years to come. I want to build wealth, do everything the world has to offer, and leave behind a lasting legacy. I want to make a difference, leave the world a better place. That's kind of redundant. I just said that, but and genuinely give abundantly without thinking about getting anything in return. So for me, I want to be in a place where I'm doing so well financially that I'm able to give without worrying about anything or thinking that I don't have enough. And I'm able to make an impact in the world, which, of course, you can make an impact even without money or wherever you are now. It's not like you have to wait until you're there. But that's kind of where I see for myself, my why is to be financially free, to be able to say, oh, a cruise next week sounds great. Oh, let's buy tickets, first class, whatever,
Hmm. Hmm.
without thinking twice, right? Because a lot of people can't do that. They got to plan and save for 2 years to go on their dream trip. I want to be able to do it at the snap of a finger. How about you? Do you have a why and a purpose defined for you yet?
Wait, I still want to go a bit further there, because that
Yeah, let's dig in.
even though this is like the an answer on the question I said to you, but I would still ask again, like, why do you want to create this financial freedom for yourself? What does this give you? Because financial freedom,
Yeah.
okay, cool. If you have it, you probably like fine, but
Great, but then
then.
what next, right? So that's a good question. And I've heard the exercise of going 5 whys deep or 7 whys deep. Just keep asking why. And
Mm.
it's a tough exercise sometimes. Even coming up with that for me was hard because I was like, I don't know. I just want to be able to pay my bills and go on vacations and buy nice toys. But why? Like, what's the point of all that, right? So I guess being able to provide the life of my dreams to also impact others, because when you're in a better financial position, you hear about all the opportunities you're able to help at scale. So sure, I can go to the sandwich or the homeless place and make sandwiches for the homeless, but I'm only one person. When I'm at that level of financial freedom and independence, I could buy that place or create a place like that. You can do so much more with money and resources to touch more people and impact more people, right? Where I could have 100 volunteers making sandwiches if I have the right financial means versus me just going and feeding 20 people. Does that make sense? Is that a little bit better of an answer?
Yes, but
Yeah.
recently I had another podcast interview, and there the guy said quite, um, yeah, with a lot of certainty, that we are the most selfish species there are, and we try to always get something for ourselves. So then the question for you would be, what is that to you when you give all the time to the other people, create abundance, give the homeless shelter? What is it in it for you?
Yeah. So what's in it for me? I'd say I've heard this a million times, and you're always like, okay, is it really that great? How giving is really receiving, like the very fact of giving time, you feel good, right? When you're able to give freely without expecting anything in return, that's something that many people don't understand, like the importance of. And another podcast I was listening to yesterday was mentioning this very fact that sure, she wanted her business to become successful when she first started, and she wanted to become sustainable and pay her bills and have the lifestyle she wanted. But now at an older age, she's being more conscientious of the impact she's making on the world. So selfishly, to be able to be in that position to impact the lives of millions or hundreds of thousands of people at a financial level, obviously I'd be at a place where I can take care of the life that I want to live and live wherever I want and not have to worry about the prices on the menu, so to say. So that would be for me selfishly. Of course, I want to be able to live life in a way where I don't have to worry about the price tag, right? Because if you look at a menu, think of when you go eat dinner or lunch or wherever, there's two sets of people. There's the people who blur out the prices and order whatever they want, and that's where I want to be, versus being the people who blur out what's on the menu and look at the prices. Because some people are so focused on getting the cheapest plate that they're not really getting that plate that they want. They're not trying the escargot and like the $100 US bottle of wine because it's just I can't afford it is the quote that we always hear.
Yeah.
So that's what's in it for me
Hmm.
selfishly.
And yeah, you asked the question, okay, where's my why? Why do I want to set those goals and create those things? Um,
Yeah.
so for me, like we talked in the pre-call a bit about, for example, the Vipassana, also the meditation thing I did, and there it
Yeah. Talk
got,
about that for more.
yeah, maybe I like at first the why, and then I we go deeper into it if you want to.
Let's do that. Yeah.
Um, so there, I obviously had a lot of time to think also next to meditating.
Yeah.
And in that, a lot of things became super clear. So you go then a lot deeper than just like what happened yesterday and what I'm going to do tomorrow, but rather, okay, what is the life for? Who am I? Like, what makes me me? Those kind of questions then arise suddenly, and you get aware of your values. What are your values? What are the things you, when you have a decision, you can easily like decide for one or the other based on the deep lying factors and values you have in yourself.
Hmm.
And they're like the like, let's say, well, the most important is life in itself. Like without that, there's nothing else we could even do, think about, or whatever. So that's like the fundament. But apart from that, it's, for me, it's really like the two parts which are very important is compassion, in a way, not only like having this empathy or feeling with the other person, but also what you said, like the act in it. That's in it for me too. That when I see that other person, and I see the skills that I have can help them, I do help them too. Like, so that is combined for me in compassion, and then really elevates my feeling, my energy, the how what kind of fire I have in myself. That's what's it's in it for me as well. Like, I really get on a different energy level when I see this person smile, or feel great after I helped them or had a positive influence on them. And
Yeah.
then next to that is also basically to be really aware all the time, to like, what am I doing? How do I feel? The things around me, like really enjoying the moments that I am in, rather than mindlessly doing other things I'm not really intentional about. That
Yeah.
is just so, like, one is like more for, okay, how can I give that to other people, and the other one is really, I want to feel like for myself great. And that's easy when you are in the moment, because then it's really hard to feel bad when you're just in the moment. If you really try that, it's impossible. And I've never had the situation that when I really felt in the moment, you cannot worry about the future or be grumpy about the past or anything like that. And when you're just
Uh,
here sitting in your room, what is there to feel bad about?
I was gonna say, unless you've got diarrhea or you're like really sick,
Oh,
that's
right,
one time where being in the
yeah.
moment, you're just like, oh my gosh, all
I want
the
to get out of this moment.
yeah. I'm just thinking one time I
Yeah.
was in India and I was sick and we had to catch a flight and I didn't even want to like move. Oh, I didn't want to be in that moment, but I totally get what you're saying on a more serious note of being present because our mind's always racing. And that's why meditation, I mean, Vipassana is like next level. We could talk a little bit about that here in a second, but even meditating for 10, 20 minutes a day, being silent and calming your brain can be so difficult when you first start because you're always thinking like, okay, what's next? What am I doing? Even if you're getting a haircut or you're at the gym, you're thinking about what you have to do later and your mind never stops. So being able to calm your mind and say, okay, just like be present, focus on your breathing, be here in the now, like that is so powerful.
Yeah.
But yeah, how about we dive in a little bit more? Like, can you explain to the audience like what the Vipassana was and how what the whole experience was from when you first came in to when you finished?
Yeah. Well, another value which is still missing to really excite me is my
Uh-huh.
own self growth, the learning,
Oh
the
yeah.
curiosity that I really am excited about. Okay, there's something new. I want to figure it out. I want to know about it. That's
Yeah,
something I'm intrinsically like really open to. Like, okay, what next can I learn? That's
that's cool.
something that's like kind of sparking the whole thing, the whole life up. Yeah. And the reason, like maybe also why I went to Vipassana in the beginning was I just wanted to have like 2 weeks or something off social media and like get somewhere like a North Star, like in the direction where I want to head. But I also didn't really know what Vipassana was.
Mhm.
So I just searched for like something like a retreat for like 2 weeks or something. And then I found this. And apart from all the other retreats, which are like then 2, 3 thousand euros, and that was for free, I was like, sure, that's pretty convincing to me, at least as a student, very
Yeah.
convincing. And then yeah, I went for it, and because I was still in Hong Kong while I was thinking about it, I found it in Nepal, and so also like went and already booked the flight, even though I didn't really know whether I got in there or not.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, yeah, and so what Vipassana is basically, or the Vipassana 10 days course, which I did, is like you arrive there on the zeros day basically, and there it's like you still get a small introduction and like what the next days are going to be about, and that you should commit for yourself to completely stay throughout the next 10 days. Because the next 10 days can be very tough for a lot of people. um, so it's in those next 10 days you will really dive deep into everything what it's really deep in your head about your values, about your life, about deep connections you had with people, about what's important for you in life. And that sometimes just pops up and you're not prepared for it. And this can be sometimes very scary. And you have really then 10 days, and in total you meditate about 10 hours a day. um, just about you should focus on like the breathing or the body scan, but
10
well,
hours a day. Wow. I do
yeah,
10 minutes and sometimes I'm like, did I turn my timer on? Because I feel like it should have gone off by now.
yeah. So you wake up at 4:30 in the morning and start meditating, and then for like about, was it 2.5 hours, and then you have like a breakfast break, and then for another, I think, 3 hours, and then a bit longer break of like 2 hours, and then you have another afternoon session for like 3 4 hours, and then after a small tea break, because you also only get like breakfast and lunch and no dinner.
Wow.
um, and yeah, obviously all vegetarian, or even vegan most of the time.
Mhm.
And yeah, then you meditate for another time, and in the evening you have like a short like a 45 1 hour video lecture from Goenka, the guy who made this a bit more public, or who established most of those Vipassana centers. And yeah, that's your day. Then it's like 9 p.m. and you go to sleep because you have to wake up at 4:15 or something.
So were you hungry for a couple days? Because I just feel like 2 meals a day. I eat all the time. I'm like ready for my snack, smoothies and stuff.
Well, at least for me, it was no problem. They also gave you a lot during lunch, so you didn't
Okay.
have to starve. You had enough.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I was just thinking if it was a little bowl of soup or something and then no
No, no,
dinner.
no, no. You really could fill your stomach completely, and yeah, you had enough.
Okay, cool. So I do you know Brett?
Y- Yeah, I also interviewed him. His podcast is coming in 2 weeks or
Yeah,
3 or something.
yeah.
Yeah.
So he did, I guess, did he do the Vipassana as well?
Yes, yes, he did.
And he was telling me about how difficult it was, just the pain in his back and his legs from, or I guess I heard that in one of his other
Yeah.
podcasts, just from sitting cross-legged for so many days. Eh, Like, is that how your experience was? A few days in, you were like mentally on
Yeah.
the fence, like, why am I here?
Yeah, so the first 3 days are like a bit more leisure. You can like still change your posture quite often if it feels uncomfortable, and
Mhm.
you just like the first 3 days you just focus on heal like the part of your upper lip and feel the air flowing aside while you breathe in or out. That's what you should do the first 3 days.
Wow.
And then starting from the fourth day, it changes to that you do body scans all the freaking time. Like once you're down, you go up. Once you're up, you go down again. That's what you do all the time. And then also another thing starts, a meditation for 3 times a day for 1 hour, in which you should not move anything at all, like not even scratch your nose or like
Oh
move
my
your leg
gosh.
once or something for 1 hour. Don't move anything at all. And that got super painful. That got very
Yeah.
painful at some point. And that was
You're just sitting on the floor, cross-legged?
you have a pillow, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so it is painful at some point, very. And then from the, I think for me it started really from the fifth day or something, where I really was like, oh, fuck, I want to leave. I really want to leave. I can't bear this pain. My right knee was felt like almost blowing up, but it wasn't. But it
Yeah.
really felt like it. And yeah, you just, because you also sit there and you're meditating, so your brain is essentially free from new input, and so then the brain sees, oh, pain, so I can look into it more deeply and can really intensify and can really feel how the pain feels. And
Because you don't have anything else to focus on really, right?
exactly, and then you intensify the pain yourself and make it even stronger. And so that really didn't help for like sustaining.
Mhm.
And so really then from the fifth or sixth day, I was like counting the 1 hour meditations, how many I had left. Like, yes, another one is gone.
Yes, yes.
um, but
And are
yeah,
your eyes closed for the entire thing, basically?
yeah, you should also not open your eyes.
Okay, so no inputs coming in. Wow.
Oh yeah, and during the whole 10 days, you also were not allowed to speak to anyone or read or write or like anything but
Oh
thinking.
my gosh, that sounds so difficult. I just like to journal and think and talk and, update social media and talk to the
Of course, you
camera.
didn't have the phone.
Yeah, wow,
Yeah.
that sounds so tough.
But yeah, from the eighth day or something, it got, at least for me, a bit easier again. And that's also when like other things happened. Like, but also the pain at some point was like so intense that like my body got like uh, I couldn't really orient myself where my body was anymore after like 1 hour of meditating, not moving. It's like,
Uh-huh.
where are my arms? You have no feeling of where they are at the moment. That was also a bit weird. And at some point I got a bit sweaty and like the pain got super intense. And then at some point my body was just like, okay, that's enough. And like kind of I in my mind went out of the feeling experiencing of my body and was not attached to the pain anymore, but could see it from the outside.
That's
Just
crazy.
because of the I guess the pain was just so intense that I was like, uh leave the body and look from the outside. And then I also didn't feel the pain intensely anymore. I could see where it was in my body, like in my knee, in my back, but I couldn't feel it.
Wow. That's amazing. Like so much of the meditation and just getting into that space, that level and that depth of meditation, it's something that I'd like to do for sure. I still wonder if I do meditating right. I'm like, oh crap, I think I just thought about things that I have to do the whole time. And so that's really impressive to me to think about that. And just I heard a Tony Robbins audio segment the other day where he said, I don't play games with my mind. I say you do, right? For the longest time, your mind starts to play games and tries to control you. But then when you get to a level where you tell the mind what to do and that it is under your control, you're able to claim so much more power and take so much more control of your life. So that level of you being able to step outside of the pain and like look at it from the outside and not feel it anymore. It
Yeah.
sounds hokey and crazy probably to people in the audience who never
Yeah.
meditate, but I want to be able to get there because I know it's possible.
Yeah, but also like I haven't experienced it since then, like here at home in this. It's just
You have to be there.
you
Yeah.
cannot reach that level of depth when you have the input constantly. Like even just a conversation with another person like keeps in your head for like half an hour or something like that. You're just going through it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, what the other person said. Like you just go through those things.
That's
And
true.
and I didn't have this input. And that was actually a blessing in the end. I literally didn't want to start speaking again. It was so comfortable to just be with myself in my head. And then when we started speaking again, it was almost overwhelming, like so much new input suddenly just by talking to other people.
Yeah. See, I feel like I would be like Tom Hanks in Castaway, if you've seen that, when he's stranded on the island and he like makes friends with a volleyball that he calls Wilson. I think that would be me by the end of that retreat,
Yeah.
because even if I lose my voice and I can barely talk, I'm still like, yeah, let's do this. I
Yeah,
can't not talk.
even if you communicate with your arms, your eyes, or anything like that, that's
That's not
communication
allowed.
that we also
Yeah.
didn't do. No. Also,
Mm.
only if you didn't want to have more food or something, you just like did like a hand movement of like thanks or something. But
Yeah.
you shouldn't also look in the other people's eyes because that
Okay.
is a lot of communication too.
That's incredible, man. What an experience that must have been. I mean, would you do it again? Probably. Like,
I will, yeah, surely.
yeah,
Yeah, and for the like next 3 months or something, this kind of state I was in, I was taking in my day, but now it obviously fades slowly. But there I was like also very consistent in meditating every morning and every evening for like an hour.
yeah.
Now it's got down to like half an hour, but still, like it's such an important part that I see. Like with this amount of meditation, I'm a lot more able to what you just said previously with like Tony Robbins. He's able to like tell his mind, and then it's going to happen. And
Hmm.
like when I'm getting out of meditation, that's what I'm capable of doing.
Yeah. For me lately, cold showers, it's something I've talked about, I've heard a lot about. And it's one of those things where I did it a little bit, but then I didn't really do it. I would like turn the water cold for 5 seconds and then it would be hot. But lately, it's been, especially after hearing the Tony Robbins thing, like, I don't play games with my mind. I say you do.
Mm,
I just play that part in my head over and over again. And then when I'm in the shower, and now that it's like winter, I mean, it's not that bad in Texas. I mean, I don't know, like right now it's like 65 or 70 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm not sure what that is in Celsius, but um, it's when it gets colder and the water's actually really, really cold from the shower because it's winter. That is very, very hard to control and go into because you can just feel the cold, like the little drips of cold water that hit you. You're like, oh, I don't want to get in there. But I just do that thing, like I say you do, and I count down from 5, and it's gotten to the point where now I'm like 5, 4, 3, 2, and I just, like, get in there, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, okay, I got this," I'm telling my mind what I'm gonna do, and I'm controlling myself, and
and then focus on your breathing. That's what I do all the
yes,
time.
and it's
Like,
gotten so much easier where now I'm like, "Whoa, I thought I was gonna die, and I'm okay, and this is
yeah.
actually kinda nice."
Yeah, I actually also do that. Like when I get underneath the shower, like I go right immediately, and then it takes like 10-15 seconds to get warm. And
Yep,
then when I leave the shower, it's like the last, I don't know, 30 seconds, maybe a minute, I turn again completely cold.
same
And
here.
that is working awesome now. Like you get more energized and actually warmer outside of the shower than if you would
Yeah.
end up warm.
Yeah, so sometimes I'll put it on to hot after I do like a full minute or a couple minutes of cold. I do it to hot just to like reward myself for a good workout and for doing the cold shower. But like you said, at the end, I'll turn it to freezing cold again, where I'm like, I'm still in control. I can adapt hot, cold, difficult day, easy day. I can go through it and keep showing up through it all. So those are some good tips for sure.
Yeah. And like something I wanted to ask you about, I think I already told you, right? I wrote you those. I want to ask you about like how you kept up this really drive of doing like this so persistently. What is like the thing behind that? What do you have in your mind when you like maybe also schedule for like consistently week by week by week? How what is like the process in your head when you do that, when you put yourself towards it?
Yeah, so I think a sense of ownership and accountability is huge for that. And I got to attribute it to when I was 13, when I was 14, I started training. My dad took me to the gym and like put me with a personal trainer and they started teaching me things. And I really got addicted to it. 8th grade, I started seeing some muscles and I was like doing sit ups every day and I saw six pack come up. And that process of knowing that over time consistency is going to pay off, because people are like, oh, you have such good genes, you're so lucky. I mean, I'm not as great of shape as I used to be, but for those looking on camera, like, see, I work out a good
Hmm.
amount. I've got some definition on my arms and triceps and stuff. And so people are like, oh, you're so lucky you have such good genes. And I'm like, no, it's been hard work over time consistently. And that's the same thing that I translate to areas like my podcast, to my real estate business, my lead generation. And so that I've kind of had that hunger and that desire of, once I say I'm going to do it, I want to make sure that I hold myself accountable to do it. And especially when I post it and people hold me accountable, right? I don't want to be like, I'm going to post 2 episodes a week all year long, and then I don't post anything. I don't want people to think that I'm that person who doesn't follow through on my word, right? Because here's an example. Yesterday at a networking event I went to, a friend told me like, "Hey man, what you're doing is great. People can see the consistency when they look on your LinkedIn profile and they see that you've been podcasting for 2 years. It's not like I've been doing it for 2 months and then I tried a YouTube channel and then I tried this. It's like, okay, you say you're going to do something, you stick with it and you see it all the way through." So I think just staying consistent over time with different things has really translated and helped, now that I've decided to identify as a podcaster, as a real estate investor, and a real estate agent. So, like, how about for you? Is that something you might struggle with right now? Is just the drive and showing up all the time, or I'm guessing because you're asking, right? You're trying to figure out for yourself,
Yeah.
how do you increase the hunger?
Yeah. Well, so what I see maybe a bit of the struggle is that most of the time during like I guess many person's life is like you get deadlines from the outside set to you, like you need to have this paper written until then, you need to have I don't know, this
Yeah.
sales based on your boss or something like that. But once you set yourself the goals to like, yeah, I want to do this podcast, or I want to do like consistently going to the gym or something like that, you just like yourself setting those goals for
Mhm.
yourself, so you have nobody standing behind you, you need to do this now.
Right.
um and
It's crazy. I mean, sometimes my mom's even like, I've gotten out from out of town late at night, and I'm like, I got to record a podcast because it's supposed to go live tomorrow. And my mom would be like, "Oh, she's Mexican, so she's like, mijo, which means son. Like, mijo, you don't need to do that, right? Like, does it have to be tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Yes, I said I was going to do it. It has to be tomorrow. I can't just be like, oh, I'm tired. I'm just going to do it later. You have to have that kind of responsibility and ownership of your things, because otherwise it's going to be easy to push it aside, right?"
Indeed, yeah. And I feel that's something really what you just said, ownership or responsibility of
Hmm.
yourself, of your own life, of what you want to really pursue, and like what is important for you, your values, like those kind of
Yeah.
things are important in order for you to be able to like be responsible, take ownership of the things. And maybe then a question was, when did this like start for you? Where did you get into, okay, I want to really take responsibility of my life? Because also what you do right now is like real estate investor, and pretty much on your own, I feel, or is
Yeah,
that
it's a
right?
very lonely road. I've worked with a few people to try to partner up on a couple deals, but I'm very, I don't know, I don't like taking orders or working like, for a boss. So it is kind of like the freedom that I love,
Yeah.
that I like to work for myself, but I also, it is a lonely a road. Like today I've been alone all day. I mean, it's only noon here, but still I woke up at 6 o'clock this morning. And luckily, I get to talk to amazing people like you. I was on another podcast interview this morning, and that's great because it's not just me being here alone. Because when I'm not talking to anyone at all, that's when you really start to. I feel like I'm going through the Vipassana where I'm like, I need to talk to something, like start talking to the dog or whatever. I have a dog and two cats, but yeah, it's just a very lonely journey. But what can help if you don't have one, whoever's listening to this, if you don't have an accountability partner, I highly recommend you find someone who's driven. Just like I mentioned, my girlfriend has her friend, they both met together to discuss their goals, and they're going to do a weekly phone call every single day this year to make sure, like, hey, how to go this week? What did you fall behind on? How can I help? How can I motivate you? And before you're about to get on that call, if you know you didn't do the thing you said you were going to do, you're probably going to do it, because you don't want to be like, you know, I watched 3 episodes of Game of Thrones. I didn't do the other thing that I said I was gonna do.
Yeah, so that's but I feel also the importance is really getting that person with a similar or same drive or also intention to like help you
Yeah,
when you're struggling.
yeah,
That's something very, very
absolutely.
important.
And maybe even if they have the same goals, right? Because one of my accountability partner, he's in another city of Texas, so we're like 4-hour drive away. I've seen him a couple times. We've met up, but it's mostly phone calls or maybe even FaceTime or Zoom calls. And the thing is that we're both in real estate. He has his license as well. He's an agent over there, so we're able to talk on the same level. He understands the business that I'm in and what it takes to get leads
Mm,
and
yeah.
follow up. So it's a lot easier than me doing an accountability call with my mom, who's like, "Hey, how did it go? Oh, you went to the office? Great." That Going to the office doesn't mean that you're getting business. Like it's like, how many phone calls did you make? How many social media posts did you do? How many open houses did you host? How many letters did you send to sellers? Those are the activities. So if you find an accountability partner who actually knows what it is that you do, you guys can hold each other accountable, or girls can hold each other accountable to the right metrics.
Yeah, so I'm super open for anyone who has also a podcast and wants to step up that game too.
Yeah.
In maybe the consistency or persistency. Would love to connect if anyone wants to.
Absolutely, same here. I love connecting with like-minded people, and I feel like every time I do a new podcast interview or conversation, it's like a new friend. Because even Skylar, who you talked about, or Brett, I've never met those guys in person, and I feel like I know them and that we're friends. And I almost feel like I need to go visit Brett and hang out in Colombia. Like I wanted to go last year, I ended up not going, but he was like, "Yeah, if you come, let me know." Just
Yeah,
to
that's
meet
pretty
up
cool.
and
Like what kind of connections can arise just from the podcast. I also had
yeah.
amazing guests that I was like, oh dang, when I like get there, I'm gonna definitely visit you.
Yeah, like if I ever go to the Netherlands, I'm gonna make it a point to say, "Hey, like, are you gonna be there at this time? And let's meet up."
That's like maybe even one of the most valuable things I get through the podcast, to be honest. Like really
Yeah.
those connections. Oh yeah, and also what I just use the podcast as an excuse when I find an interesting person, even if it's somewhere on the internet, I just write them and ask them for a podcast interview. And you would
Yes.
usually don't do that if you like just find this person interesting. You're like, oh yeah, cool, next video.
Yeah,
But
most
you're not
people wouldn't
like,
do it
yeah, just
because it just takes too much time.
open the possibility to connect or like, hey, you can I talk to you for an hour? You usually would not ask this question, but can I interview you
Mhm.
for this podcast? They're like, oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. My biggest guest, I think, so far has been Dan Locke. I'm sure you've heard of him.
Yeah, yeah,
Over 1 million followers on YouTube and Instagram and all those crazy things. And a lot of people ask me, like, "How did you get him on your show?" And then I explain how crazy it is once you get a show that gets some traction, podcast booking agents reach out to you and ask if you would have that person on your show. So really someone reached out to me. And then I was like, yeah, I'd love to have him on my show. I mean, I listen to his stuff all the time, and he's got great content, great social media presence. And that's just how it works. You make these connections, and because we are establishing a platform, they selfishly want to get on our platforms as well to get to our audience,
yeah.
which makes it a very easy ask for us to get people like that on our show, which is awesome. Like, how many people can get access to talk to someone like Dan Locke for an hour? Like, unless you're Grant Cardone or someone on that level, it can be difficult, right? I can't just call him and be like, "Hey, can I talk to Dan? I have questions about entrepreneurship."
Yeah, that barely happens.
Yeah. Well, awesome. I know it's been about an hour. Is there anything
Oh,
else you wanted to cover? Or
oh
I
man, I
guess,
didn't see
yeah,
the time.
the time flew. I just glanced down and I just saw. But like, what would be one thing you want the audience to take away this year for 2020 that you think would make the biggest difference for them?
Actually, the thing that I'm really working on at the moment with my master thesis about the growth mindset.
Yeah.
That is for me just like essentially what I learned over the past 4 or 5 years through like I had the luck to have those amazing experiences of like traveling, meeting those people, getting completely different uh, perspectives of the world, which opened for me the door to such a possibility like the growth mindset.
Hmm.
And yeah, really have a look at it. It's by Carol Dweck,
I've
and
got it here on my
yeah,
bookshelf
right.
somewhere.
It has been gotten quite popular, um, and yes, the new psychology of success, exactly.
Great
um,
book.
and they're basically like couple of super easy concepts, which are just like embracing challenges whenever they're like obstacles are, or not, like effort is the way to mastery. Like really seeing any setback as the opportunity to learn. These are like things you hear so many times and so often, and like people are listening to it and then going to the next one. And maybe like what, for me at least, out of those couple of bullets, is for me the most important is, or what I see myself as being, um, or learned, is just going straight forward to the person who knows it and ask them. Like that
Everybody, listen
sounds
to that again. Rewind this 15 seconds. This is
that
the best advice ever.
sounds so ridiculously easy, but when you know a person that is exactly in your field or something you want to learn, just go and ask. It sounds so freaking simple, but apparently it's not something what everybody does. And I can have been the most impactful situations when I was able to just connect with a person who knows or does exactly that what I want to do. And
Yeah.
most of them are super open to like, oh yeah, sure, we can talk, or want to meet up for a coffee, or like everybody loves to share their experiences about something they love doing.
Hmm.
And you just literally have to ask and you will be given.
That is such good advice. And people love to talk about themselves and brag about their stories and maybe even like humble brag, right? They don't want to just sound boastful and stuff, but they are proud of their accomplishments in the fact that whenever they meet someone who's young and hungry, and not even necessarily young, but like determined, hungry, wanting to learn and wanting to get better, they can appreciate that and they can sense that the sincerity as well. You don't want to come from a place where you're just asking for help and asking for advice without providing value. But if you can do it in a way where you're providing some value to them and like really inquisitive and you're just genuinely interested,
Yeah.
that is when people are very willing to open up to you.
Yeah, and really not like watching the 30th video about any motivation, but then just write that person who did that video and ask them, can we talk? Like,
Yeah.
it's sometimes that simple, but really hard to execute. But that would be something I want to do even more often now in 2020. How about
That's
you?
awesome. For me, my number one takeaway for 2020, I mean, that's a really good one, is just find mentors and ask people directly in places where you want to be. So I was at an event last night where there's investors that have a bunch of multifamily, fourplexes or even apartment complexes. I met a girl who's 22 and she owns 11 doors, is what the saying, how we call it here. She has, maybe a duplex would be 2 doors, for example, a triplex would be 3 doors.
Mm,
Basically, she has a paying person for each door that she has, and she's just 22 years old and she owns 11 already. She's like ahead of a bunch of people that are way older than her. And surrounding myself with people like that, I can ask questions and say like, hey, what was your biggest challenge? Like, what do you recommend? What should I focus on first? Especially if you're at the beginning of your journey and you're not sure what you want to do, find mentors and surround yourself with people. But I guess the big takeaway too for me would be to get out and network and go to these events, because it's great to meet people online or to follow them, especially YouTube allows you to learn so much. But it's different when you actually shake someone's hand, you
mm,
befriend somebody, you get access to their knowledge, and you're able to provide help to them too. So if you can meet people in person, you hear it all the time, it's not what you know, it's who you know. That's so true at times for so many things, because whether it's a real estate deal that somebody brings you off market, or it's an opportunity or an introduction that someone can make for you, those things typically happen more by shaking hands instead of just sending emails.
yeah. Maybe something I would like to add to what you said. I completely
Mhm.
agree. Just want to give the note of the genuineness of this and not just doing it for
Right.
the networking. Just don't do it for, oh yeah, I have shake the hands with this person. Now I know
20
them.
people, yeah.
Yeah, but like just be genuine about what they have to offer, what they want to tell you, and then at some point there might be the opportunity where you can help them. And
Mm-hmm.
that's where the strikes, how you can see, okay, I can help this person. Maybe you can ask the person beforehand already of like, how can you do this for me? Sure. But like still the genuineness of, I want to make a connection with this person and not just network.
Yeah. One thing that Andy Frisella talks about on the MFCEO project a lot, he says, make a friend, make a sale, right? So no matter what it is that you're doing, you can't just sell people and take their business card and pitch them. You've got to make friends, you've got to make good connections. And then people do business with people they like. So as you develop more friendships and they're genuine and you're just there to provide value and to meet new people and put good vibes out into the universe, if things work out, if things align, if they have needs for your services or there's a way for you to work together, it's going to happen because you're developing things from the right place.
Oh man, yeah, sounds awesome. I agree.
It's true. Man, well, we had a great conversation. We both are on the same track to just dominate 2020, and it was awesome to learn more about your Vipassana experience, and it really puts things in perspective because like next time I'm complaining if I stub my toe, I'm gonna think that, oh, this is nothing compared to sitting there for for 10 days in a row, cross-legged with back pain and knee pain and all kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, thank you for sharing like your deep motivation and how you can keep up those things, and maybe also how to tackle those goals. That really helped. I really acknowledge that you gave that's deep of an insight.
Yeah, I hope
And
it helps
truly,
because it's some of it's just self-generated. You know, I feel like I'm the Energizer Bunny. I'm like every
yeah,
day I just got full energy. I'm ready to go. But sometimes you don't have that, right? You wake up and you're like, ah, what's the point?
and that's exactly then when you need such reminders, and maybe that helps another
Absolutely.
person who's listening to that to just like gets up another day a bit early, or just makes that what you have to do.
Yeah, and the thing too, when you follow and connect with other people, like if I'm not feeling so good and then or someone's not feeling so good and they see my story where I'm like, "Hey guys, it's a new day, it's a new opportunity. Every single day is a new chance to like make a difference in your life and in the world." Instead of thinking it's been such a crappy year, you reframe it and you're like, "It's a new day. I can rewrite, my life starting today." So, just surround yourself with positive people and messages, and when you're not feeling so good, that will rub off on you and kind of pull you up a little bit out of
Yeah,
that funk.
really surround yourself with those people. That's amazing. That has
Yeah.
been the best impact on my life too. Like when I really looked at, okay, who is giving me some positivity, and like I want to spend
Uh-huh.
more time with you guys. Can we hang out?
Yeah, just get around them. It's awesome because the positive energy, you can feel it in a room. Conferences are good for that, or if you have a mastermind group, it's
Yeah.
really just awesome to get a bunch of similarly minded people together.
And if you could choose any superpower that you just any, what would it be?
Any superpower. I would say to fly or something because that's cool, but then again, like I don't think flying could really give me a leg up on being successful. The It's funny because the other podcast I was on today too he asked that question like he gave me an option between two superpowers, I think, but if I could pick any superpower, it would probably be to know the future or to read the future because then I can make the right investments and just become wealthy. It's kind of like have you seen the movie Hot Tub Time Machine by chance?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay, so I don't want to ruin anything for you, but it's just funny because the guy. This will be a little bit of a spoiler alert, but it's been out for a while. But anyways, they go in back in time in some hot tub that's a time machine. But then one guy decides to stay in the past while everyone comes back to the. They teleport back to normal time, and then they find out that instead of Google, the guy's name was Lou. Now it's called Lugal because he knew about Google and he founded it. And now he was a billionaire on a yacht and stuff. And he's like, "What's up, guys?" I think if I remember correctly, that's how it went down. But I'd probably want to be able to predict the future, possibly, I guess selfishly, but also to maybe prevent bad things from happening and also find out solutions to problems that we would know in 20 years. I could find out now to help solve poverty and issues like that. So that would be my superpower. How about you?
I actually have that corny superpower of flying just because it's fun, and you
That is cool.
like
I'd
you
be jealous. I'd be on the floor looking up, like, dang, I should have picked that power.
and I can then just I obviously see also flying is super fast, because then you're able to connect with those people in person, and you can be in like like many places super quickly,
Yeah,
and have those deep connections. What I could just come over to Houston, and we can have this chat like right in your room.
that would be
um
cool. Or
yeah.
even like, teleporting would be cool too, but I guess flying would be you get to see the sights and stuff versus teleporting, you're just there.
In the first episode I had this new season, I also had teleporting before, but he convinced me of like flying is way
Flying's better.
cooler, because you have the process also of like getting there, and you enjoying this part too, instead of just
Yeah.
teleporting. Yeah.
Yeah, and also flights are the most expensive part about traveling typically, so you would eliminate that cost as well. And then even if that were the case, the private jet on my vision board, I wouldn't even need it anymore because I could just
Yeah.
fly. That's cool.
And then
But
the last question would be, where can people find you? Where do you want people to find you? Yeah.
yeah, I was gonna ask you the same thing since we're kind of doing this like conversation style
Yeah.
podcast for both of our shows. So for those in the audience listening, if you guys want to connect with me, you can go to Chris Bello09. That's CHRIS B as in boy ELLO 09 on Instagram, and then you can go to chrisbello.com. If you want my free productivity hack, I've got 5 productivity hacks I recommend. That guide can be accessed by going to chrisbello.com/free. So that's how you can reach me. You'll find all my social media stuff on there. How
Also in the
about for you?
description. It will be
Yeah,
then
we'll
in the
put it in the
description.
description
Yeah,
on
yeah.
both of our shows for sure. How
uh
about you, Julian Merten, right?
yeah, actually pretty well.
Thank
um
you.
yes, so the over the podcast, it's theambitioussloth.com. It's everywhere, the ambitious sloth, like on
Spelled
Instagram,
out, yeah.
Facebook, YouTube, like anywhere. And I guess the best is really Instagram to connect. If you want to shoot me DM, ask me a question about anything we talked about, or those sorts of things, I'm very open and super happy if you contact, and we can chat about something.
Awesome. Well, this has been awesome, man. I really enjoyed the time here with you, and I'm sure our audience is going to take away a lot of value as well,
Oh yeah.
especially debating which superpower that they would want. It's kind of fun to throw in some fun things like
Yeah,
that too. But yeah, let's stay connected, and I
for
wish you all
sure.
the success in 2020, and let's keep in touch. And I'm sure we'll do another podcast episode here together too later down the road just to check in and
Yeah.
see how everything's going.
Yeah, man, I really enjoyed this more than an hour now podcast, because you're so like,
Yeah.
even though you're like super ambitious and looking forward to achieve all those goals, you're still like super easygoing and friendly and open to help other people, to like also to connect. You're just like such an open-minded person. I really enjoy that speaking to you. So thank you for that.
Yeah, likewise, because I know you should be studying right now, right, for those exams. And the fact that we're still on this call, like, we're flexible. And that's kind of the beauty of entrepreneurship and stuff in general is just who else can do this? Most other people would be like, oh, I got to do only 1 hour because I got to run back to work. So that's what I value most about this lifestyle is being able to say, I have time. It's okay if we go 15 or 20 minutes over because I'm enjoying this. And I want to
Yeah.
be, like you said, present in the moment.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Namaste.
Namaste. See you later. All right, I'm gonna stop recording it. That was good, man. Thank you. We talked.
Thank you for listening until the end of this episode. And I really appreciate his input on the goal setting, the persistency, and also just general his aura of positivity that was really including and helpful during the whole conversation. So if you want to check out more of what he does about his podcast, Entrepreneur Motivation Podcast, you check out his Instagram on chrisbello09 or chrisbello.com. And thank you for listening this time again. One last thing, if you enjoyed this episode or got a new perspective on something, I would really appreciate if you subscribe or leave me a review on iTunes, so I know what I'm doing and I can improve it. And I also see a bit of support from you to keep going. That would be awesome. So have a nice day and namaste.